A lot of people are of the opinion that Titanic might have been caused after the builder of Titanic, that is White Star Line, made a comment in order to prove how strong this ship was, said even God cannot sink the ship. And eventually on the 15th of April 1912, Titanic sank in Newfoundland in Canada when it was making its maiden movement, that is its first movement from Ireland all the way to New York. On 31st of May 1911, Titanic was launched, and on 12th of April 1912, they made their first movement, and on board were over 2,024 passengers were making their way all the way from Ireland to the United States. But something happened that marveled a lot of people, that they are saying that this might not be ordinary, because the circumstances that led to the sinking of Titanic was nothing that you can even comprehend. As they were making their way towards the United States, as soon as they got towards St. John and Newfoundland in Canada, the sailor, that is the crew of Titanic, said they didn't see the iceberg. And immediately Titanic hit the iceberg, it busted and water started gushing into the ship. All the passengers were surprised. They had first class passengers, second class, and economy. They were all terrified on what to do. And that was the point that they started calling for backup to evacuate. At the point that backup was coming, Titanic was actually sinking. The first part of Titanic, that is the front part of Titanic, called the bow, was the one that was sinking first. And at a point, Titanic broke into middle, separating into two parts. The front part, that is the bow, sank directly down, going with it over 1,500 passengers. And the back of the Titanic, called the stern, actually scattered into pieces and went down with a lot of people there, and it took them 2 hours and 45 minutes before Titanic eventually sank to the bottom of the sea. It was something of strength to a lot of people that wondered how could Titanic, as strong as it was a very massive ship, a cruise ship, could sink just because it hit an iceberg. And researchers, scientists, water experts started digging to see where was the exact point that Titanic sank, and it took them several years until 1st of September in 1985. They now noticed the exact point where Titanic sank in 1912. That is in between St. John and Newfoundland in Canada. And since then, it has become a sight to behold of a lot of tourists, a lot of people that want to explore the underwater. And these 5 people that died on Sunday, the 20th of June 2023, they needed to see the remains of Titanic after 111 years. Ocean Gate Expedition Company, that is the manufacturer of this Ocean Gate watercraft that imploded under the water, decided to take 5 people to go and see the wreckage site of the Titanic. And they brave up themselves because they believed that they had achieved everything in life, and the only thing they needed to do was to see all those things that ordinary men would not be able to see. 5 of them had to cough out $250,000 each to go and see the wreckage site of this Titanic. They flew all the way from the United States onto Canada and found their way to Newfoundland when the mothership conveyed this watercraft, that is Ocean Gate watercraft, onto the middle of the water. And one thing that surprised everyone is that this watercraft can never be opened from inside. They were bolted 18 places from the outside, and they moved them to that exact point where Titanic sank in 1912, and they put this watercraft into it, and it started descending. They were still communicating with the mothership afloat the water, and they made this journey at 8 o'clock. Exactly 1 hour 45 minutes, they lost contact with the mothership afloat the water, because underneath the water, by the time you go around 1,340 feet, everything underneath the water will be darkness, and you have to rely on those that are afloat the water to be able to give you direction. Everything you have to do below 1,450 feet has to be with precision, because the depth of the sea where this Titanic sank is about 12,450 feet. By the time the watercraft had moved for 1 hour 45 minutes, that was the point where they lost contact with the mothership, and there was nothing heard about these people. The watercraft was pushed into the sea at 8 o'clock They were supposed to submerge at 3 o'clock, but at 3 o'clock they were not seen. At 5 o'clock they were not seen. That was when the mothership started calling for help, that Ocean Gate watercraft that went to see the wreckage site of Titanic was nowhere to be found. And all the researchers from the United States, from Canada, from British, were trying to find this watercraft, and just to make sure that these 5 people aboard this watercraft were all alive. But behold, nothing was heard about them until on Thursday the 24th, where it deemed that the 96 hours oxygen that was in the watercraft would have been exhausted. That was when everybody lost hope that these 5 people were gone. The way this watercraft was designed was in such that anybody would be able to operate it. You have to use something that looks like a video game keypad and just move it front and back. That's what they had. And everything they had to do, they had to rely on the mothership afloat the water. But at the point where they were not seen, they started making the search to see if they were still alive. Until the U.S. Coast Guard said around 1 hour 45 minutes that they made dive into the water. That was where they had something like an implosion, because the water wave underneath the water, that is almost 13,000 feet underneath the water, was so much for this watercraft that it imploded and thereby killed these 5 people on board. And people have been asking, what could have made these 5 people to take this kind of risk? What happened before these people died? Why are people still going under the sea to go see Titanic that sank over 111 years? And I hope you might be asking the same question yourself. Why take such risk? Because they feel that they needed to see some extraordinary things. They went and they never returned. They decided to take a risk of over 13,000 feet beneath the water to see the wreckage site of the Titanic, which could easily be seen on a YouTube. But everybody has his or her own opinion. They know what they want to see. The world is still trying to find out what actually happened before this watercraft imploded inside the sea. A lot of people are of the opinion that something must have happened. Ocean Gate employees said most times that their watercraft has gone underwater, they always lose contact with the mothership. And members of the Marine Organization have said several times Stockton Rock, that is the CEO of Ocean Gate Expedition, had been warned that he needed all his watercraft to be certified, but he never joined them because maybe he believed that everything he was doing was with precision, because he was a man that had acquired a lot of things, a lot of experience, a lot of information when it comes to marine. But this watercraft killed 5 prominent people, 4 adults and 1 teenager that needed to see the debris of Titanic but never made it. These are the 5 people that died in Ocean Gate submersible submarine when they went to see the wreckage site of the Titanic. Stockton Rush. He was the founder and chief executive officer of Ocean Gate Expedition, the company that operated the watercraft, that is the submersible submarine that imploded in the sea. And he was the person piloting this vessel. Hamish Harding. He was a British businessman and explorer. He held several Guinness World Records, including one for the longest time spent traversing the deepest parts of the ocean in a single dive. Also, he held Guinness World Record as the fastest circumnavigation of Earth via both the geographic poles by plane. He was only 58 years old and also the chairman of Action Aviation. He had previously flown to the space on a mission by Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket company. For Henry Nagiolette, he was a French maritime expert, and he had been to the wreckage site of the Titanic for more than 35 dives. He was the director of underwater research for RMS Titanic Incorporation, an American company that owns the salvage right to the famous wreck and display many of the artifacts in Titanic exhibition. Shahzada Dawood, he was a Pakistani who resided in Britain. He was the father of 2 sons, and one of the sons died with him. And he was also on the board of trustees for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute and a member of one of Pakistani's wealthiest families. And his son, Suleiman Dawood, he was only 19 years old and was a university student And initially on this journey, he was terrified. He didn't want to go, but he wanted to please his father for the Father's Day, and he obliged his father to go. Also, Suleiman had applied to Guinness World Records ahead of the mission to see this wreckage Titanic site, and he was so excited to try to solve the puzzle deep in the North Atlantic. That's what the mother said. And his father, that is Mr. Dahoud, had even brought a camera along to document the record-breaking moments, but he never made it. Suleiman, the camera, and the cube all perished during the implosion of the watercraft. We pray may their souls rest in peace. Let me know what you think in the comment section.